Hello and welcome back to An Old Man Watches. Apologies in advance if I sound a bit croaky today. I am under the weather. In any case, today I'm going to be talking about the filmed performance of the stage show The Prince from 2023. And the show opens with the Battle of Homildon Hill from Shakespeare's Henry IV, Part 1. In the battle, Hotspur, a hypermasculine knight who does not yet realise that she is transgender, leads the English forces to victory against the Scots. But there is bad news for Hotspur. Her brother-in-law has been taken prisoner by Welsh rebels, so she reluctantly hands the captured leader of the Scottish forces over to Prince Hal after he agrees to try to convince his father, King Henry, to ransom her brother in exchange. Two supporting characters, Sam and Jen, then step forward to reveal that they are modern women rather than medieval, trapped inside a multiverse of Shakespeare's plays. Sam, a care home manager, explains to Jen that they originally met in Julius Caesar and implies she rescued Jen because they are both transgender women. Sam shows Jen a magical map with a doorway that will allow them to escape to the real world at the end of the current play. However, the two are then temporarily separated when Hotspur recruits Jen to look for a lost sword. Jen finds the sword, but when Hotspur shakes her hand in gratitude, the two experience a painful magical force that propels them into all new scenes. Now, whereas Sam has always seen the other characters in the plays as antibodies who exist only to keep her trapped here, Jen begins to suspect that Hotspur, Prince Hal, and the others are just as much victims of the situation as she and Sam are. And, over Sam's strong objections, begins trying to rescue them too, as Sam has done for her. Will Jen succeed, or will her effort merely do what Sam fears and lead to them all being ever more firmly trapped within this virtual Shakespearean multiverse? The Prince was written by Abigail Thorne, who also portrays the role of Hotspur. Though an actress with several credits to her name, Thorne is probably best known for her successful YouTube channel PhilosophyTube, which at the time of recording of this video has around 1.6 million subscribers. Many more times what I do, probably because she's much better at this YouTube thing than I am. Thorne originally came up with the idea of this play as a drama student, out of an interest in exploring the character Hotspur and in writing scenes in verse. She also took structural inspiration from the play Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, which depicts Hamlet from the perspective of two minor characters. Several years after her original draft, Thorne revised the script of The Prince and took it to the streaming service Nebula. Nebula funded production of the play, including a 3-week run of shows at the Southwark Playhouse in London, and also filmed the play to make it available on their platform, which is where I saw it. And I very much enjoyed The Prince. It's not a flawless show, but it is a good one. So let's dig into some of the main features that might drive whether or not it's the kind of show that you might enjoy. So I've already mentioned this is a stage show that has been filmed, but I think it's best that I reiterate and expand upon that fact, because if you go into The Prince expecting something like a traditional movie, you're going to have a jarring experience. Stage shows are not movies after all, and that impacts the viewing experience in several key ways. Unlike a typical movie where actors can be in many different physical locations, any changes of scene here are purely conceptual. All the actors are on a physically small stage with essentially no scenery. They are surrounded by the audience, and you can see part of that audience in almost all of the shots. Unlike a movie where you can cast many extras, there are only 8 people in this. Some of them play multiple roles, and the wider scale of the world exists only by suggestion. The opening battle of Homildon Hill, for instance, is represented entirely by 2 characters having a carefully staged sword fight. There are frequent changes of shot and perspective, but not as many as you would get in a movie. We do have a few close-ups, which are filmed without an audience present, but overall, the camera work is more static and limited in variety than you would normally get. None of those things inhibited my enjoyment of The Prince, but they might impact yours. So I thought, I should make them clear. This is a different viewing experience than a typical movie. Now, one thing that I omitted from my discussion of the play's production was what prompted Abigail Thorne to revisit the script, and that was her own personal journey to claiming her identity as a transgender woman. She felt that the show's Shakespearean setting was a good fit for transgender allegory, as Shakespeare's performers were originally all male, and his writing was dense with jokes about people dressing up as or being confused about other people's genders. Those themes are clear within the play and are also reflected in its production. Multiple characters within the fiction are transgender, and all of them are played by transgender actors. Much of the crew are also somewhere on the LGBTQ spectrum. It's true that Thorne has said that she does not see The Prince as a purely queer play, but more generally one about characters who are trapped for all sorts of reasons, and that's a fair claim. But it's also true that the transgender experience is core to the narrative here. Now, I consider that a plus, personally. Our media is full of stories about cisgender men, particularly cisgender white men, with a much smaller sample of cisgender women occasionally getting a chance. So media that centres other, more diverse perspectives, that ask you to try and understand a different perspective, are an opportunity to challenge yourself and to grow as a person. Now, of course, merely being socially worthy would not be enough to make for an entertaining show, but I'm pleased to say that The Prince doesn't fall short on the entertainment front. In particular, I think Thorne's script shows he has a real mastery for dialogue and wordplay. Reviews have praised her mastery over rhythm, pacing, medieval literature, and comedic wordplay, and I think there's good cause for that. Thorne has reworked Shakespeare's lines in clever, often sharply amusing manner. She has also intercut and interspersed these classical structures of iambic pentameter with more relaxed, freeform modern speech patterns. This contrast is used as a simple but effective tool to reflect how ensnared within the Shakespearean multiverse a character may be. On this front, at least one reviewer has noted that the play's humour might be overly reliant on the incongruous effect of blunt modern slang as a response to elaborate archaic language. But while it does utilise this contrast quite often, I think the question of whether it is overly reliant or not will depend on personal tastes. For me, I didn't find it overdone while watching the show, but clearly that reviewer did, and you might too. It's also possible you might struggle with the classical Shakespearean dialogue. It always takes a few minutes for me to get my ear in and pass such speech, and I know I'm not alone in that fact. In fact, in an amusing touch, some of the modern characters within the play find it hard to follow what other people are saying to them. Still, unless you find Shakespeare completely incomprehensible, I think you'll find much to enjoy in what these characters have to say. I know I did. Next time, the year before releasing the truly excellent animated film The Iron Giant, Warner Brothers Animation offered up the truly mediocre Quest for Camelot, also known as Magic Sword Quest for Camelot. The multiple ways in which this film misses the mark will be discussed. But that is next time. Until then, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you've seen The Prince, let me know what you thought of it.